Some people choose a college because it's close or because it seems practical. But the students who thrive at Williams, they come here because they believe their life has a bigger purpose. That's what Preview Day is all about. It's not just a tour or a free lunch or even just a chance to sit in on classes. It's a glimpse of community. A community that believes education isn't just about getting a degree. It's about discovering who you're meant to be. When I came to Preview Day, I didn't just see classrooms or dorms. I saw professors who cared, students who welcomed me, and a place that helped me imagine a future I actually wanted. That's why I knew this is where I belonged. Come see for yourself. Sign up today at williamsbu.edu/preview.
Welcome to the Lifework Podcast. Today we are joined by Melissa Davis, Dr. Melissa Davis. She is a new member of our faculty here at Williams Baptist University, and we are delighted to have her here in our community. Welcome, Dr. Davis. Melissa.
Thank you for having me.
Glad to have you. You've already done one podcast for us already, the Williams Pulse, with Mr. Bill Jeffrey, and I think that's internal, and a lot of our students listen to it, but I'm sure we have a lot of people external listen to it. This is a podcast for the bigger community out in the big, bad world, and we are glad that you're willing to come back and do this again.
Thank you.
So in this session, I want to talk about you as it relates to your own personal journey, as it relates to work. And I want you to think about the things God has done and taught you personally about work. But first, just so that our listeners will have a better idea of who you are, where did you grow up? Where's home for you?
I grew up in Eads, Tennessee. It's about 45 minutes east of Memphis.
Okay, not too far.
Right.
Did you grow up in a small town or on a farm or ag community or?
So it's an interesting question because I was born in 1980. So through the 80s and 90s, the area I grew up in was very rural, lots of farms, specifically a big dairy farm right where I live. Today, it actually is door-to-door housing, and it's basically become a suburb of Memphis. The city of Memphis has annexed within 5 miles of my childhood home as, city limits.
Okay.
So it's door-to-door housing mostly. There's one remaining farm, that dairy farm. It's still there, but
your family's farm?
No, not my family's farm, just someone that was near me.
Okay.
But it's changed drastically in the past, 45 years.
You grew up in an ag community then?
I did, but is no longer there.
Okay, so what kind of things did you do as a young girl growing up on the farm or relating to a farm?
Well, my family wasn't in farming.
Okay.
My grandfather farmed in Middle Tennessee, so we would visit his farm mostly. But everyone I knew was usually on a farm or in the farming world capacity, whether it was their parents or we just grew up around it. I mean, it really wasn't a novel thing because everyone was involved in it somehow. Where I went to high school, or I guess kindergarten through 12th grade, it was surrounded by farms. Everyone that was in the school was in farming. It was a big deal in the town that would be Summerville, Tennessee. And so they're still farming quite a bit in that area, but the closer you get to Memphis, which is where I was, the closer you're going to get to suburban living now.
So did you do farming stuff? Did you participate in ag-related activities of any kind?
Yes. I mean, like I said, my family was in it. My grandfather always had a farm and things like that. So that's how I grew up around it as far as my family goes. But my friends were always, on farms, and we had every field trip we took was to someone's farm in the area, during school. So it was just constantly ag-related to where we took, we didn't think much about being a part of agriculture like kids do today.
So how old were you, and when did you get the bug, so to speak, that you thought, okay, this might be a calling, a career path for me?
Specifically agriculture, it was much later in life.
Okay.
Science was more when I was in college. So it's been a very interesting journey, a rocky journey as far as just finding my place. I would say, looking back, I probably always knew I would end up in education, but you couldn't have told me that when I was younger, through high school and even starting college. That was not my focus.
What were you thinking would be your focus in high school, early college?
When I started college, I was going to major in psychology. I did not
Wow.
like science. I
Wow.
had, and I wouldn't say bad
You
teachers,
kind of
but
whiffed on that.
I know. It was, honestly, it just wasn't in my plan. I just had never given it much thought. Science was never very exciting to me. A lot of my teachers were just more about memorizing facts and not really the interaction and the, being out in it. And I had a strange encounter in a non-majors biology class in college where my teacher became sick. And instead of canceling class like good scientists do, he got a substitute teacher. And so when she came in, she said, everybody get your chairs in a circle and we're going to just have a discussion today. So she was going to fill that time. Of course, everybody groaned, all of us non-majors that didn't like science, right? And she said, I have one question for you. She said, why should we preserve land? And, coming from my background in Tennessee, which used to be a small town and we had agriculture everywhere, I was like, this is going to be ridiculous. But then a student piped up and said, we shouldn't. And I thought he was kidding, but he wasn't.
Wow.
He was serious. And then it got worse from there. It was, well, I don't know why we should preserve land because our food is grown in factories anyway, right? And I realized really fast that the college I went to, which is Roanoke College in Roanoke, Virginia, we had a lot of city kids. And I had never realized it. I was just there to go take my psychology classes and get a degree. And so everybody in the class, and she let it happen. Everybody in the class agreed. There was no point in preserving land. And I'm sitting there and I was horrified and I never spoke up. I was very shy as far as that goes and kept my mouth shut. But when I left that class, I knew I had to do something differently. And so I changed my major that day.
Really?
To environmental science. That was the first step that day.
Wow.
It was just a huge, overwhelming, I'm in the wrong field. And so I switched it to environmental science. And my goal was to be a park ranger, of all things, where I would educate the public on this land is important and this is why.
Sure.
So that's where it started.
Wow.
And it just,
by the way, how did you get from Tennessee to Roanoke?
Scholarship.
Okay.
A scholarship. I wanted to go away for school and I got a great scholarship. I actually competed for it, if you can imagine. They had competitions at this college.
Okay.
And so I competed and won a scholarship. And
well, good for you.
It was exciting to go away from home.
Wow.
So.
And as you look back with the vantage point of hindsight now, and I always like to say hindsight's 20/20, but it really isn't, but it's better than trying to guess what's in front of you. How did you feel the Lord orchestrating those events in your early adult life to get you to the place where you are today?
Absolutely. That teacher, the environmental science teacher that sat in on that class that day, has changed my life completely. And it's funny, she was an atheist of all things. I found out later. I don't know she could have easily changed her mind then, but I did attend church while I was in college, and I had a very wonderful man named Richard Kreitz, who was a local biology teacher at a community college in Roanoke, Virginia. And so I met him, and we had a friendship that lasted until his death a few years ago. And he encouraged me to teach. Always, you need to teach. And I brushed him off for more than a decade, but eventually I heard what he was saying all that time.
So when was the shift from park ranger to professor? How did that happen?
There was a plane that went straight into the World Trade Centers. I had a park ranger job that was set up. I was scheduled to graduate early in December of 2001.
Yeah.
And the plane hit the buildings on September 11th, 2001. And by October, probably 14th of 2001, my job that I had set up that would have started in January 22 was over. And it did not recover for about 4 to 5 years. I think it was 4 years later they called back and said, are you still interested? We're now regrouping. But I don't know if anybody remembers that they cut a lot of the funding across the country during that time. And one of the things that got cut was all the park rangers and recreational money. And that was what was probably going to fund my position. So my world just got rocked. I had to find something else to do.
So walk us through briefly the world getting rocked, what you thought was your called vocational path is now come to a dead end, at least for that time. And now you have to pivot.
Yes. That was very surprising. No one expected that to happen. I had worked in that same park for 2 summers before that, so I had prepared for years to have this position. I was scheduled to go to the police academy that January because it was a commissioned park ranger position. I was very excited about that. And all of a sudden, a plane flies into the building, and I remember thinking, this is not good. This is bad for every reason. And by October, I knew. So I graduated in December early. So I'd only been in 3.5 years. So I finished early and went home because I didn't know what else to do. So I went back to the Memphis area, and there was a job at the Germantown Parks and Recreation Department. So one of the municipal positions that they had there. And I taught environmental programs basically all during that year. So I took the city people on hikes, and we did tree identification and animal walks, and just lots of kids and lots of families. It was a lot of that kind of thing. And then I started moving up in the Parks and Recreation Department as far as, eventually they said, well, you probably could work at the community center. And so I worked at the community center for a while. Then I became the director of the accounts and the admissions, like the memberships of that community center. And I just kind of started working my way up the ladder in the city. And pretty soon I was in an office with no window and no educational component whatsoever. And
so
amazing.
When did the overlap? Because it almost sounds like there was park ranger working a park, and then somewhere along the way, teaching, engaging the public, doing instruction with the community, and that growing more and more, and the park ranger stuff, obviously with the loss of the job, but you're kind of doing something similar in the Memphis area, but more of the migration and teaching.
Right.
When did that really just kind of come on you and you think, okay, this is now the path?
Yeah. I was in my office at the Germantown Community Center, and a man walked in who had a problem with his account. And his name was Dr. Wally Abdi, and he taught biology for the University of Memphis. And while I was working on what was wrong with his account and all this stuff, he just kept staring at me. He said, I don't feel you should be here. And I'm like, what does that mean?
Strange man.
Yes.
Yeah.
He said, I just feel like you could do more. And I was like, well, tell me, I'm kind of stuck here. I just keep doing it. I mean, you just go to work and you don't, anyway, God literally reached in and grabbed me that day. He said, I don't know if you've ever thought of this, but you really should go to grad school and you need to go to Virginia Tech. And I said, why on earth? I'm in Memphis right now. Why on earth would you say that? And he said, well, that's where I went. And so I'd already been in Virginia at Roanoke College, so I was just down the street from Virginia Tech.
Right.
So he's like, surely you want to go back, right? I mean, it's a beautiful area. And I'm like, yes, I do. So he's like, look into it. And I'm like, what would I study? I don't even know. And he said, you need to look up Dr. Cherry's name. Dr. Cherry's still there. You need to go. He's one of my best friends, and he likes to eat this particular sandwich at this little cafe, and you need to go talk to him. Anyway, long story short, he kept on bothering me about it, right? Have you applied? Have you looked? Anyway, I ended up at Virginia Tech in the plant pathology department because of that.
Do you always take career coaching from a stranger off the street?
That time I did. It was but it was so out of the ordinary that you have to listen. There are times in your life when you should be listening because it doesn't fit. And that's how I know God is speaking.
Wow.
But wonderful man, has now passed on, but I kept in touch with him for years because he really changed everything for me.
So how long from that conversation until you are enrolled in the grad program, how long was that time?
2 years.
2 years.
2 years, yes.
Okay.
And I started at Virginia Tech in 2007.
Okay.
And I finished in 2011. And
So I know a little bit about your program of study. Obviously, we had that discussion when you joined us here. You don't have a master's, do you?
No.
You just went straight into a PhD, which is kind of not unheard of, but a bit unusual. Just real quick, how did that happen?
Yeah, in science, it's actually getting more and more common. It was very common at Virginia Tech. If your research is, so I was in the master's program, but if your research is going really well, they don't want you to stop and write a thesis all of a sudden. They want you to keep going because I was publishing my research.
Okay.
So one publication, then two, they were like, you're not stopping for a master's. So they had what they called a direct PhD. So you just go straight through and don't stop.
Nice.
And so,
So your undergraduate degree was in what?
Environmental science.
Okay, so you're now in the PhD program at Virginia Tech in what program?
It was the plant pathology, so plant diseases.
Okay, plants have diseases.
Mm-hmm.
Okay, and you are learning how to cure plants of their diseases.
Absolutely.
Okay, so when did the move into a research calling, doing the lab work and the research work, move into the teaching side of this?
So I was fully funded at Virginia Tech, meaning they paid me to go to school because we had research money, grant money that I helped write grants and things like that. So I was considered a research assistant. But because of Dr. Abdi saying, you could teach one day, and, Mr. Kreitz saying you could teach one day, it was always in the back of my head. So I thought, well, I'll see if that's what I really want to do. So during my time at Virginia Tech, I actually volunteered to teach for the biology department while I was going to school there and doing research. So I did research and I taught. So most of the time you have to pick one, teaching assistant or research assistant, but they allowed me graciously to teach on the side as long as it didn't impact my research. So I was teaching for 3 of the 4 years I was there in the biology department.
Okay, not ag.
Not ag, in the biology department, just to get myself, just to be in a classroom, see if I really liked it. And I loved it. I absolutely loved it.
So then the next step is getting into the ag world. How and when did that happen?
Well, I was in the agriculture department, like plant pathology was in the ag department.
Yeah.
So I was surrounded. I was at the research farm at Virginia Tech all the time.
Okay.
So I was immersed in it. It was just that the only teaching we had was really the biology department. So I just got my feet wet there.
Okay. Working on a farm outside of Virginia Tech.
Yes.
When did you personally start getting connected with farming as part of your family life?
Family life. Well, day one for graduate school.
Okay.
We were already at the farm taking samples and things like that. So, I was completely immersed.
Do you have your own personal farm or garden or anything along that line?
Oh, absolutely. Gardening, yes, definitely. But I was always, on a research farm for the next 6 years of my life during that time. So I didn't need my
So you're growing
farm.
stuff for other people, but not for you.
Absolutely. Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah. I was more of a helper as far as, I was the one that could figure out what disease you had. And then we were trained to, scout fields. And
did you drive the tractors?
When I could. Yes.
Okay. You ever driven a combine?
Yes, just once.
Just once, and that was they won't let you go back in. It was that bad?
No. We just on the research farms. It was a very controlled environment. We had people that helped us do those kinds of things because those pieces of equipment are very expensive. Yeah.
Yes, they are. Yes, they are. So, in the providence of God, orchestrating the events of your life, here in 2025, you now find yourself in Walnut Ridge, Arkansas, on the faculty at Williams Baptist University, and you are the lead instructor professor, the face of our agribusiness program. What was it about that particular program that attracted you to apply for the position?
I've been out of the agriculture world for quite a few years because I had been in administration at a different college.
Okay.
So I taught for years and loved it, missed it, but sometimes your life kind of takes a different turn. And so mine had, and I wound up in an administrative position and was high up on the chain even where I was over the faculty. So I was losing touch with the students. I was losing touch with, my roots as far as, what I loved to do, which was teach, and then specifically teach science. So 7 years of that, it was time to go. And when you get nudged, and I got nudged in a huge way. And I saw the position here at Williams Baptist University, and I couldn't wait to go back to what I knew I was good at, what I knew I loved. And it just made me apply. And I thought, God will do the rest. To me, you just apply and give him the ability to speak from it. And if I'd never heard from you, I would have known I was in the right place. But instead, I got that call, and you need to go find out. And then I met all of you wonderful people, and I started getting that stirring. It's that there's something for you in a new place, and I'm so grateful.
Well, we're delighted to have you. Grateful to God He led you here.
Absolutely.
So we're going to do another round here in a few moments, but before we get there, I do want to ask you, tell me why you're attracted. Tell me why you're passionate about agriculture, about agribusiness. What is it that just captures you every day, gets you out of bed, gets you coming here to teach and to work and do all the things you're doing here?
Everyone in agriculture, and this is something I learned being the geneticist / biologist that was working with farmers all the time in different states across the country. Everyone I met in agriculture, everyone I know in agriculture is called to be nationally important, even internationally important with all the exports. I mean, anyone in agriculture has been called, and I don't even know if a lot of them realize it. But everybody that's growing one plant of rice out there is touching not only everybody in the state, but the United States, and then wherever they're exporting that to, whether it's Russia, China, wherever. It's to be part of agriculture is a way to be part of the entire world's food supply. And it's bigger than what we a lot of times give the farmers credit for. And it's not just the farmers, it's the lenders, it's the consultants, it's the sales people from all the big ag companies. I mean, all of them make this whole thing work. And it's really something that it's one of the few professions I know of that no matter what part you're in, you're touching an international issue.
Yeah. And of all the things that we have in our world, when you start getting into ag, into food, you're pretty much at the base level of where everybody is. There is no one that is not touched, whose life is not dependent upon what those in the agriculture community do. I mean, we are all dependent on it.
I couldn't have said it better. That's it.
That's a big responsibility. And apparently the Lord has called you to be a part of shouldering that responsibility and helping us do that here. Well, I'm grateful for your time today on sharing with us. We're going to do another round here in a little bit, but I'm delighted to have you here. You're making a difference here at Williams with our students in this program, and I'm excited to see what God's going to do in the future. So thank you for sharing today in our podcast.
Thank you.